Hey brand builders, I'm Mash Ponigala, brand strategist. Alright, so in this video, we are tackling the 5-pillar brand strategy. This series of videos, of course. In the last 3 videos, we've looked at who your customers are, why does your brand exist, and what your brand personality is. And this pillar, the 4th pillar in this series, is why should people care? Now, why should people care is a very, very, very important question, right? Because at the end of the day, if your audience doesn't care about your brand, they're not going to come and become your customers. And not caring is such a prevalent thing. I mean, if you look around, most of the businesses fail because people don't care about them. Not because of bad products or services, although that, there are some brands, some businesses that do fail because their product sucks or their service sucks. For some, it could be marketing. So the marketing fails. But what does marketing really mean? When you say that your marketing failed or you don't have marketing, what does that really mean? It means that you're not able to make your audience care about your brand, right? It's not just about the product or service. Of course, if you are in a situation where yours is the only brand or business offering that product, right? Then okay, what about outliers? For instance, during the pandemic, if all you needed to, at one stage, all you needed was a warehouse full of toilet paper. That's all. You didn't need a brand, you didn't need a message, you didn't need a purpose, you needed nothing. In fact, you didn't even need to be a good person or a good brand. You could be a nasty brand and people would have still bought your toilet paper, right? Because at that time, that was the thing people were after. So I'm talking about, and I'm assuming that you are in a regular, normal market segment. You're selling a regular, normal product or service. And therefore, for someone like you and your brand, you need people to care. So when you're marketing, all you're doing is creating that opportunity for your audience to care about your brand. You're not really even selling. In fact, you shouldn't be selling your product or service. You should be marketing to make them care. And you know what? They will sell themselves. They will buy because they care about your brand. Of course, they need the product or service. But do you see what I'm saying? Okay, anyway. So this 4th pillar is why should they care? Why should your audience care about your brand? For this, we create the brand story, we create brand story elements, and then we create a community framework. So these are the 3 action items under this pillar. Why should they care? Now, why should they care? As I said, it's all about the brand story. If people care about your brand story, then they will care about your product or service. Now, the brand story is not your origin story. It's not the story of how you set up this company, how you had this idea, this epiphany, or you needed a product, it wasn't in the market, so you created it. That's origin story, and those are great. They have a place to play in your marketing, and they will come in just a second. When we are creating the brand elements or the story elements is where you have your origin story. But right now, the first primary task is creating the brand story. Okay, so primary task number 1, create a brand story. For this, we create a storyline and premise. We create a rallying cry. And if you watched my last video, I was talking about the tagline, and I said that if you can't create the tagline at that time, you could create it in the next video or the next pillar, which is of course the brand story pillar. So this is it, creating the rallying cry. And then you create the brand story statement. Okay, so what is a storyline and premise? A lot of people are confused. They don't know what a brand story is. They always think that a brand story is the origin story. That means, like I said, how it came about. No, a brand story is something that aligns with the worldview of your audience and that brings into light what we stand for, our brand, how we think about it, and the value we will provide to the client. So it's talking about the value proposition. And if you go back, you will see we did create the value proposition. We didn't call it that value proposition because we will be doing that in the next pillar, which is the messaging framework. But when you have a vision and mission and you have a purpose and you have all that for the ideal client, you are creating value there, right? So now is the time to bring that across and tell that in the form of a story. Now, what does it mean? Why do we use the word story? Because storytelling is the basic means of communication between humans. Let's say a kid wants, an ice cream, or they don't want to go to school that day. What do? They come up with a story, right? You may call them excuses. In that context, it's called an excuse. Now, we might even say, don't tell me stories, right? Why do we say that? Don't tell me stories. It's because you're setting up a 3-act situation. The primary act, like just in a movie, right? in a movie, most movies are split into 3 different acts. The first is the ordinary world, right? It's where people are just going about, the hero is just going about. And then they come upon a challenge and they are, they're pulled into that challenge. The second act is where they're trying to solve that challenge and, they hit some obstacles. It looks like, oh man, it's the end of the road. This hero, this heroine will not be able to do what they're set out to do. And then the third act is where the resolution comes in. Just like that, the story of your brand should be about where the audience is and talks about their pain points, and then the resolution. So anything can be, like, take the kid example. Don't want to go to school, stomach ache, right? And pain, don't want to go to school. I know, it's a stupid example, but I'm trying to really, really connect the most basic things that we hear to what a $1 trillion brand such as Apple, how they tell their story, right? So if you look at Apple's story, what do they do in their messaging, in their communication, in everything? The story they tell is that we provide tools for people to live a creative and fulfilling life, right? That's what they're trying to say. So when they talk about watches, it's not just a watch and with features just for the sake of it, but it is how it'll improve your productivity. It'll improve your fitness. It'll improve your creativity. It'll keep you on track. An iPad is the same, to improve your creativity, to help you do your tasks, to help students study. So all these features, they are in that narrative. I'm sorry if this still sounds confusing, because it is. It's not easy. A brand story, understanding what a brand story is not easy. And I cannot get you to understand in just a video, like 15, 20 minutes, right? A video. You need to do a lot of legwork. You need to do a lot of homework to create your brand story and premise. Premise is the storyline, right? It's the plot of the story. You want to sell, a pen. You want to sell a Sharpie, right? To sell that, you are creating the story to communicate to someone who needs that. Of course, the basic is, hey, you want a marker, a permanent marker, you buy a Sharpie, right? At the end of the day, that's it. But why a Sharpie? Yeah, features. I get it. You might be saying, well, aren't features important then? They are, but benefits are more important. And more than benefits is the idea behind the benefits, what it does to the client's lives. Okay, I'm rambling on. All right, the next primary task, action item in this primary task is create a rallying cry. A rallying cry can also be called as a tagline. So what is a rallying cry? It's to lead our audience onto this journey of solving their problem using our product or service. Because that is what the journey is, right? The audience journey. They go from not needing our product to needing our product and to buying our product amongst the sea of competitors out there. That is the journey, and we need a rallying cry for that. We need something to communicate this journey, to say, follow us, and it's a rallying cry. And usually a rallying cry is a great tagline. Nike, yes, cliche, just do it. Just do it is a rallying cry. And they used it so effectively to, dominate the world, essentially, in terms of advertising and marketing. So what is their rallying cry? So just do it. What does it mean? Just do it. It's the journey of someone who wants to achieve greatness, but doesn't know how, is maybe holding themselves back. They're saying, just do it. Just put on those shoes. Just go for that small run, which turns into a consistent practice, bigger run. And then on the world stage, as one of the athletes, Olympics, you're doing that run. You're doing that race. Or get up in the morning, put on those shorts, put on those shoes, get your racket, go practice with 1 ball, 2 balls, 3 balls, 4, 5, and then you're, Serena Williams or Venus Williams. You're on Wimbledon and you're hitting Grand Slam after Grand Slam. Just do it. Because when you just do it, you make your dreams come true. That is what Nike's rallying cry is. But that rallying cry is not just made up of just that word, just do it. Behind that is the other pillars that we talked about, which is the purpose, the vision and mission, and understanding, of course, who the audience is, and then creating the brand personality, and then telling the story. This is the story. So in the story is the rallying cry. You need to come up with a rallying cry that motivates your audience, and that can also become your tagline. And then finally, you put all this together and you create the brand story statement. The brand story statement could be a paragraph, it could be a full story, or it could just be that rallying cry, that one single line. That could be the story. So don't think of story, as something that needs to be pages and pages long. No, it could be one paragraph. It could be a page. right? Or it could be just one phrase, one sentence. In the pillar, why should you care, or why should your audience care? The next primary task is create story elements. Under this, we have 3 action items. We create the origin story, we create brand icons, and we create the brand process. Origin story. As I described earlier, origin story is how your brand came about. Something unique. You need to find something unique within that story to tell. My story, for example, especially when it comes to this part where I coach and I create strategies for founders to help them double their revenue. The origin story that I tell, the origin story is that I started a design firm back in 1998, 1 person, then it became 2 people. 2002, it was one of the first online logo design companies. There were only a few, not even a handful. And then by 2012, that is in 10 to 12 years, I turned it into $1 million design firm with offices around the world. Then Google Panda update hit. So it's a Google algorithm. We lost all our rankings. We lost our traffic. Our revenue fell 95%. And I had to let go of, 99% of our team. And then I bounced back. I rebuilt myself and I rebuilt the brand, the business. And in 4 years, so 2016, 2017, we hit our $1 million again. So that is our story. That is my origin story. It's a powerful story, and it shows how I've been able to do the almost impossible. And I did that by learning a lot of skills, by implementing strategies, tactics, and collaboration. And of course, it was not just me. It was not a single person. There were many, many people to help me achieve that. But I was able to bring those people into my life, into the business, into the brand. So that is my origin story. What is yours, right? Pick. Now you might say, Mash, I don't have a dramatic rags to riches origin story. Then what? No, I'm sure there is some element. It doesn't have to be a dramatic, from 0 to $1 million and then back to 0 and then back to... I'm just giving you my example. And by the way, if you're interested in this story, I will leave a link to... Actually, I did a couple of interviews. A famous branding podcast interviewed me and I talked about it in depth. So I think it's about an hour. In fact, I might actually do a video on that on this channel too. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, come up with your origin story. I'm sure there is something within your story that is unique that you can bring out. That is the origin story. Next, brand icons. Creating brand icons. Okay, so brand icons. These are icons. They're not design icons, but they're icons that represent something. For instance, Harley Davidson. Of course, their bikes are their products, right? Their choppers. Those are the products. But you know the Harley Davidson leather jacket? That's a brand icon. People who don't own a Harley Davidson motorcycle, they buy this jacket, they wear it, and they feel good about it. Why? Because it's an icon. It represents something beyond just the motorbike. So if people can't afford the motorbike, they feel like they're part of that community by wearing that jacket. And that is an icon. Starbucks, the iconic cup. You're walking, from Starbucks, you're walking to your office, you're carrying that cup. It's an icon. It's also a ritual, which I will talk about in the next action in the primary task. But those are icons, right? So you need to identify and come up with an icon that represents your brand. You know what? It could be just your brand ambassador. It could be you, me. I'm a brand icon for our agency, for our incubator. I'm the icon. I'm out there. I'm talking about my passion is the icon, and that shows what our brand story is. Our brand story is one of sharing education. It's about sharing education. This is what I'm doing right now. I'm sharing my knowledge. I'm sharing ideas and strategies, things that we actually charge for. This 5-pillar brand strategy, we do it for a client as a this is a DIY, right? So I'm helping you do it yourself. But when we do it for a client, we charge $20,000 more, 30, 40, 50, right? So, but my passion, so I share this. I don't hold anything back. I put everything out there. And when I coach founders, I charge, $5,000, $10,000 to coach them, to help them double their revenues. And this is what I do. Then you might say, okay, if you're putting this all out there, why should people pay you to coach them? Because I go one-on-one, I spend one-on-one, and I create the strategies with them, so on. Anyway, that's besides the point. But identify, create an icon that represents what your brand is about, and that brings your audience into the fold. And finally, we look at action item, brand process. Okay, this process is the transformation that your audience will go through by being part of your brand. So this is about breaking them down, transforming them, building them up, right? So that process, you need to come up with that process. And I can't really tell you what that process should be because it's each. Look, a pen. If you're selling a pen, what is the process that an audience goes through when they don't have your pen, they buy your pen, and then they use it, right? You decide what that process is. What happens? What kind of transformation is going on? So instead of saying brand transformation, I call it process because transformation is what really happens, but it is a process that happens, right? So that maybe I'll make a separate video on that because yes, it is a confusing topic and I don't want to spend too much time on it here. Okay, so those are the first two primary tasks. And before I go to the third primary task, do you see the power of this? Are you getting this? The power of the brand story, why, and what it actually means. You may be, you might have already heard of people talking about the brand story, and they say you have to tell a brand story, but I've demystified it, I've debunked it, right? I've broken it down into pieces so that it makes real sense. Now you know what a brand story is and what it is not, right? Do you see the power in this? So if you see the value in this, hit the like button right now. And of course, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. All right, let's go to the third primary task under the fourth pillar, which is why should people care, right? That's the fourth pillar we are in. And the third primary task is rituals and community ideas. For this, we need to create fan and internal rituals. We need to create a community purpose, and we need to create rewards and perks. The third action item, this is the third primary task, is rituals and community ideas. You need to create rituals that become part of your brand story. By the way, this whole video is about building that story, right? It's why should your audience care is the question. They will care when you have a ritual. Now, what are rituals? Let's take a very simple example. Again, Starbucks. Starbucks, the audience ritual is, and this is a fan ritual, is for someone who maybe they don't even like coffee that much. They don't really drink coffee that much, but when they commute to office, first thing is they go to Starbucks, they buy this $5, $6, $7, $8 cup of coffee. They hold that, and then they make that walk from Starbucks to their office, to their seat, and they're sipping on their coffee. Now, this is a ritual they do. Number one, it signals that they are sophisticated, they are in the know, they are a successful person by having their Starbucks, or maybe it used to be, maybe not that much now, but it's still a ritual. Secondly, it sets them in that mood for work. It's a ritual, right? Those are fan rituals. You could have your own ritual if it's a product, even for a service. You know what? Even onboarding, if you're a service, for example, and someone signs up for your project, signs up for your service, you could take them to an onboarding process, which is a ritual. Or even the act of buying could be a ritual, right? So you got fan and internal rituals. You need to have your internal rituals too to make sure the brand is on point. Because look, when you create a brand strategy, when you create purpose, you create statements, all these, after a little while, you might lose sense of what it was that you really created, right? If you have a ritual, it will remind you of that. Okay, next, you need to create a community purpose. Now, you need to have a community. You need to build a community around your brand, right? That is one of the most important things. And for that, you need a community purpose. Your community purpose should not be to gather potential customers in one place, spam to them, and then sell to them, right? That should not be the purpose of your community. The purpose of your community is to help your audience. In fact, you should not sell in your community. Your community should buy from you. You should not sell. So come up with that community purpose. What is the community purpose, right? For example, I have a community. My community purpose is where founders, business owners can congregate, ask me questions, get value out of me, and then also network amongst themselves because they're all on the same journey. They're all trying to double their revenue. Maybe not 90 days, some 6 months, some a year, but it's always about scaling their business. It's always about scaling their revenue. And that is the purpose of that community, not for me to spam them about my services or my agency and trying to get them to buy. No way. Do I get people from my community who then contact me and request for one-on-one coaching? Yes, of course they do. But I try to discourage them initially. I make sure that indeed that they want to get more value. They want to really do it, not just waste money. Okay. Anyway, that's beside the point. But I'm just giving you an idea of how a community purpose should be. And finally, once you have the community purpose, you need to come up with the rewards and perks for your audience. If you look around you, most brands, most businesses, small, large, they hardly ever reward their audience, even their customers. Okay, I don't want to name names, but our broadband provider, right, internet provider, I've been with them for at home. I've been with them for almost 20 years, right? And still, they have so many promotions going out for new customers. None of them apply to me. Never have once. Okay, if you take an average of what, $100 a month, that's $1,200 a year. Let's just round it to $1,000 a year. 20 years, $20,000. The lifetime value of me as a customer is $20,000 for this internet company, and yet not once has a manager or somebody called me up and asked me how is it going, or called me up and offered me, I don't know, this month free. Just this month is on us, or something of that sort, right? Okay, that's as a customer. But what about non-customers? I reward, for example, me in our agency. You come to our agency website. Yes, there's services, but we reward our audience through free knowledge. I write tons of articles. We create videos. We offer frameworks. We offer downloads. Lots of things. These are rewards and perks for my community that I offer. You need to decide what kind of rewards and perks you're going to offer your community. All right. So today, we tackled the fourth pillar, which is why should your audience care? Why should they care? We talked about how to create a brand story. We talked about creating story elements, and then we talked about how a community is important and why you should have a community purpose, rewards, and perks. All right. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. If you have, then subscribe to this channel, because there's, I think, one more video in this series, but many more videos that I will be creating on each of these elements. So you've seen flashcards on all these videos, right? Each flashcard had, each video had 3 flashcards, and each flashcard had 3 action items. That means each of these videos, I can make potentially 9 videos exploring in depth, right? So subscribe. And if you have any questions about this topic, hit me up on Twitter. My handle is @BonnyGala, or follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm always answering questions. I'm always posting interesting stuff, useful stuff, to help you double your revenue, to help you build your brand, and so on and so forth. All right? Ask me questions there, or just leave a comment below and I will answer. Till my next video, prosper and always be building your brand.